Hokie Hangover Podcast. We're here to talk Wford. No, we're not. Uh, thanks everybody for joining. It'll be
Oh my
just
gosh.
myself and Andrew tonight. Mike is out of town, and our special guest to be named at a later date had to bail at the last minute.
I will say, Jimmy Cleveland told me to come into this episode late and be like, sorry, I had to put my kid to bed. But but I was like, I can't do that this time because Mike's not even going to be here. So this will be a test to see whether Mike actually listens to the podcast because he will certainly comment on that joke.
We'll have to see if how quickly he's able to pick up on that. As always, before we get started, Counts Family Pharmacy in Blacksburg is the place to be if you're looking for someone to treat you like a neighbor, not a number. That's the place to go. Also, Home Field Apparel, Beamer Ball gets you 15% off your first order online. You may not be very proud of Virginia Tech right now, but you can still support the school and wear the colors. And you should, honestly. Despite the team being 0-3, despite the coach being gone, you should still wear the colors.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's no reason to be ashamed to go to Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech's still a great place to have gone to college. It's just a little bit embarrassing right now. Kind of tough to be the butt of a national joke. I don't even think it ever got to this point with Fuente. People were just kind of like, oh, this is bad, but never to this extent. But it's, I mean, you reap what you sow. People can't make fun of you for sucking if you don't. But
Virginia Tech made the Men in Blazers account. I don't know if you saw that. They did a meme table of the Premier League, and the bottom was Virginia Tech football. Which, look, if you're making an ESPN personalities chart that covers European and international soccer, you have certainly gone viral for the wrong reasons, and that's where we are at the moment.
yes, we were also on Big Cat's tier chart in a sucks ass category this week, and that's NFL teams. So the world knows that Virginia Tech's in peril, but only one place to go, and that's up. Hopefully, hopefully this week against Wford. But it's one comment that, and I say this, with all due respect to Brent Pry, who I hope isn't putting himself through listening to this stuff, but it is kind of odd to be in a situation where like Brent Pry is fired, Philip Montgomery, who we know virtually nothing about, takes over. But the universal sentiment is like, well, Philip Montgomery will probably be a better coach than the one we had, right? Like,
Yeah,
at least like in the game, in the moment. I mean, dude's done it for a long period of time in his life. Albeit to varying levels of success. But I'm interested to see, what the Philip Montgomery era looks like. Though my expectations are pretty low, given, where this program is at, having to kind of throw the season a little bit early.
Yeah, for those who are listening and aren't really familiar with Philip Montgomery, it's important to note his background, right? A lot of us thought that when this was going to happen, especially after the Old Dominion game, we knew that this was coming. I think many of us thought that J.C. Price would have been tabbed as the interim once again. He obviously did it at the end of the 2021 season when Justin Fuente was dismissed early. And JC obviously had that big win against UVA that has certainly made him he was already a legend as far as the Virginia Tech fan base is concerned, but the younger fans certainly have something that they can remember JC for. So when Philip was given this role, I think it took some people by surprise, but in the grand scheme of things, it really shouldn't, right? The guy has coached some big names at quarterback. Robert Griffin III is obviously the big one at Baylor, comes from that Art Briles tree. Spent several seasons at Tulsa with varying levels of success. And as we talked about on this show when he was hired, that's a really tough place to have any success. You're kind of in a bit of a wasteland there. You've got so many big schools around you that are soaking up the talent. it's hard to be able to recruit and win at Tulsa. And Montgomery was able to get a second deal there, which is more than a lot of people can say. Obviously, that didn't work out long term. He ends up going to Auburn for a year, didn't work out there. He's in the UFL. And then obviously, Virginia Tech nabs him at the last minute when Tyler Bowen leaves. But this is a guy that has a track record as good, if not better, historically than any of Virginia Tech's recent offensive coordinators and play callers. He's done this at various stops. He's coached good players. And I think we all expected this offense to really hum a little bit when he took over. And so far, it just has not done that through 3 games. They have not found their rhythm at all. And I think the biggest question for me is, while I do think that Montgomery can handle some of these day-to-day head coaching responsibilities because he's done it before, is he going to be able to resurrect this offense while also taking that stuff on?
I mean, survey says probably not, but it's an impossible situation. We don't know who's going to be on the team after this week against Wford. And of the guys who are on the team, and this is like a tough reality check that has to go around, but people might stick around because the checks are cashing. But that doesn't necessarily lend to cohesive team first play or even just general effort. I don't know how many of our listeners have ever played football. I've played football at a high school level, so I'm not claiming to be some sort of expert. But from what I know and from what you could tell, because it's very clear and obvious in any game that you're watching, the team that doesn't want to be there doesn't usually win unless they are worlds talented, worlds superior in terms of talent than their opponent. And Virginia Tech is not going to be worlds superior in terms of talent compared to their opponent any week following this game at Lane Stadium at noon on Saturday, right? So you're going to have a ragtag roster filled with presumably some guys who don't want to be there. That would be, again, projecting any massive amount of success in the near term seems far-fetched. I mean, Virginia Tech has the longest odds to win the ACC championship before an ACC game is played. And for a reason, right? Now, if Philip Montgomery even can coach this team to 3 ACC wins, I'll personally write his letter of recommendation for his next job. I will throw a parade down Main Street of Blacksburg as he leaves town at the end of the year, because that wouldn't be good enough to give him the job in any sort of permanent fashion. It's hard to think of what it would require to do that, given that, it was just the most humiliating moment in school history. Why wouldn't you just want to wash away all of that? And on top of that, he did play a part in the first 3 losses in which the offense looked anemic for all but a half. But it would speak to his ability as a coach if he were to rally this team to even a moderate level of success. And if he doesn't, I honestly don't hold that against him as a coach as much. I think he's probably a competent but not great college football coach in the grand scheme of things. We've seen that when given moderate talent and suboptimal circumstances at Tulsa, he was able to have some good years, some bad years, just kind of rode the wave there. But it's going to take something real special to get this team playing in any sort of unified fashion. But it's just honestly it's going to be weird seeing it from even from the podium and stuff like that. This is such a foreign thing to me as a football fan, seeing your coach fired week 3. There's 9 games left. And my last point here, Ricky, about them tapping Montgomery and not JC, that may have been a merciful lack of a tap for the job. You're going to put an alumni in the ringer for 9 games and with very little hope.
Yeah.
We had a decent team in 21, not great, decent, good enough where you could probably beat UVA. You put JC in there to give the team a little bit of juice. Very well-liked guy. Also, realistically different era of college football in terms of roster construction. But yeah, these guys don't know each other. And, if you're going to have JC trot them out for 9 games to get humiliated, don't do that to the legacy. I'm glad they didn't.
For sure. And you never really know what his role may or may not be in December when the new coach is putting his staff together, and whether or not he'll be retained again or whether or not he'll be shown the door.
If he's retained again, that's impressive. I even though I think he's done a tremendous job, I have a hard time believing they're retaining him again. Just because, was that forced upon Pry?
Maybe.
You don't know. But, the fans obviously wanted it, and, the fans got what they wanted, and it ended up being a success. But I feel like the level of coach that I hope that Virginia Tech brings in there, I hope they have ideas for their entire staff in their head already. And if J.C. Price is the guy, so be it. But if he does have to move on, I hope it's to green pastures, because he's done a great job.
Forgive me, I'm dying live on YouTube and X. I'll say that even if JC was forced upon Brent Pry, he's been maybe the best assistant on the staff.
Oh yeah, easily.
If you look at what he's done, from getting transfers to be able to play cohesively and have impacts on the game, he's been pretty damn impressive. And that, combined with his history here, I think may be able to keep him around another time. But we'll have to wait and see. Andrew, I want to talk about this press conference that was had yesterday. Virginia Tech had Philip Montgomery up there, but before that, they had Whit Babcock take the podium. Whit took no questions. Whit looked to be reading a statement word for word. He reiterated part of the statement from Tim Sands when they dismissed Brent Pry. I don't know what your thoughts on this were. I've seen some different opinions about what to take away from Whit's statement at that presser, but I am still of the opinion that this is a relationship where the days are numbered and that both parties know it and have kind of agreed to it. And it's a matter of Whit is so ingrained in the finances of the department, obviously, and that before he is going to be allowed to resign, Jay Pearson, John Rokovich, Ryan McCarthy, and the Board of Visitors are going to pick his brain and help allow him to help them put together a legitimate funding proposal that is going to be voted on here later this month.
Yeah. Look, every public statement made by Virginia Tech to this point would suggest that Whit Babcock has been all but effectively neutered in terms of his role as, the chief executive of the athletic department at Virginia Tech. If you don't trust your athletic department or director to be the authority decision maker in terms of restaffing your football program from the top down, then what good is that position to begin with? It clearly suggests that his days are numbered. Now, David Teal, who I have no slight towards at all whatsoever.
Yeah.
And in fact, I have all the respect in the world for David Teal. I've been reading him since I learned how to read. Took interest in the ACC. But he says that Whit Babcock, he believes, will be the athletic director on opening weekend of football in 2026. The only way I could imagine that to be possible is if football completely breaks off from the athletic department, becomes its own standalone department, where there's like a GM of football, which there very well might be. This could happen. This might happen either way, but it has to happen in order for Whit to be able to keep the job of athletic director. Maybe they would say, Whit, you go run everything else, but there is no way. If Whit Babcock is the ire in your heart because of the way that Virginia Tech football has gone in his tenure as athletic director, I encourage you to stay positive, because I don't think he can hurt you anymore, at least on that front. It would make no sense. The actions of the last week would make no sense if he had real power there. So that's my take. Do you disagree at all, Rick?
I don't think there is a single scenario in which Whit Babcock is the athletic director heading into 2026. You don't fire your head coach 3 games into the season and immediately say that your athletic director is not going to pick the next head coach without there being some sort of realization at the university leadership level that this just isn't working. And I refuse to believe, and the last time I did this, Virginia Tech lost to Old Dominion. I refuse to believe that the university, right? Virginia Polytechnic Institute, State University, is I'm trying to choose my words carefully here, is willing to give Whit some sort of parachute here, which is what that would be, Andrew, if he were to be the director of athletics, non-revenue related, right? Because if you're going to put him over basketball, you're still trusting him with one of the second most important program in the department, which we can argue about how that's gone. But I think in order for Virginia Tech to take the next step, there has to be a clean break here. I would have preferred if the Board of Visitors had made this move at the same time. I understand why they didn't. And I still think that this route can be a fruitful one if there is a mutual understanding that when this funding plan is done and it goes before the board and gets voted on, that there's going to be an end to this relationship. And it doesn't have to be messy. It doesn't have to be ugly. Both parties can walk away with their heads held high. Whit has been here longer than most athletic directors can say they've been anywhere. He has had some success as athletic director, and we've talked about that at length. There are things that he can be proud of in this department, but you just cannot allow this to continue. So I read the same thing that you read, Andrew, from David Teal. I just don't see any scenario in which that happens. If it does, I think it's a severe miscalculation of the situation by Tim Sands and John Rakovich in the Board of Visitors. So we'll see what happens. But Whit's body language on on Tuesday was some of the worst I'd ever seen. It basically looked like he realized that this was just about done.
Yeah, Ricky. And to be clear, the situation I laid out before us a few minutes ago was not something I actually think is going to happen. That is the worst possible case scenario I can imagine.
Yeah.
Another way of saying, again, don't worry about him ruining the football program anymore. He's done. That being said, right, like to the situation that we're in right now, the powers that be probably decided that they were done with Brent Pry after Vanderbilt. But as we are seeing now, there is not a huge benefit to firing your coach this early in the season. In their head, they were probably like, we'll let it ride for a little while longer and, see how he does against NC State. Eventually you're going to hit the buzzsaw and we'll move on.
Yeah.
What the Old Dominion game did was actually show that you can't not fire him right now, or else you are signaling that you do not take this thing seriously. And the fact of the matter is you don't want this guy leading the program anymore. He's doing more harm than good. The reality is that keeping Whit around for a little while longer and having something of a smoother transition especially regarding the funding plan and stuff like that he originally proposed to the board,
Yep.
does not do Virginia Tech any harm. I would not be surprised if they are hard at work actively seeking out his replacement. But yeah, so it's not something to get too discouraged about if you're a Virginia Tech fan. Like, I know, like, sucks to have him up there, and the fans all want to throw tomatoes at him, but it's over. Like, and if I'm wrong, then we're gonna have a very different podcast episode. But myself, Ricky, and almost everyone I've talked to seems to be in the same frame of mind, and it would be surprising if a lot of people were telling me the wrong thing.
Yeah, and to kind of bring this back to Philip Montgomery, who's obviously running the show now, I felt like during his appearance at the press conference, he obviously did take questions as the head coach. I thought he looked completely comfortable in what he was saying and doing, and I just got the feeling that he's going to be fine at this. Interim coaching is one of the worst roles in sports. As an Orioles fan who has had an interim coach for the last few months now, it's a completely thankless position. And if the team wins, you're not going to get much of the credit. If the team stinks, you're going to still get some of the blame, even though your boss was fired for a reason. So it's a really tough position, especially for a guy that's bounced around so much, and I think was really trying to find a place where he could potentially settle in at, as someone who again has been moving for the last few years every season. I think he obviously knows that his time in Blacksburg is numbered, but I just get the feeling that he has the experience and confidence that he can rely on. That Virginia Tech, I think, is going to play better football. I don't envision this getting worse than it's been, and I know it's been pretty damn bad, so that would be hard to do. But I just have a feeling that this team has been playing less than the sum of its parts, and that Philip Montgomery might be able to fix that, at least to a certain extent.
I mean, again, Ricky, I hope so. And I as I kicked off the podcast by saying I think he's probably a more competent head coach than Brent Pry. And he's probably the most well-equipped person on the staff to take over a situation like this. But, again, the team being cohesive and motivated is an important thing. And in this day and age, again, these kids, many of them have not been here long. Many of them that are here might not be here next week. And so, yes, they've been playing by less than the sum of their parts. But that sum might decrease significantly over the course of the next few days, weeks, what have you. And then
we've already seen one defection.
Yep, and I would be quite sure there's more to come. Inevitably. With that said, though, it's like he's playing with a bad hand because ultimately, and granted, like Brent Pry would have had to deal with this to a degree too, probably, even if he hadn't been fired. Like, it'd be hard to get the team up after that. Like, they quit on him.
Yep.
It is what it is. But now you're Philip Montgomery. You just got here in February. You didn't even recruit a lot of the guys that came in through like the transfer portal, let alone the high school kids. You didn't recruit any of them. And yeah, you got to say, like, get behind me, even though a lot of you, even if you are staying, know you're not going to be here next year. And I know I'm not going to be here next year. So, let's go out there because eventually, like, and for decent reason, like selfish motives do take over. I'm not saying that every player is going to quit. I hope they don't. And, if you're a young guy and you're liking your stay at Virginia Tech, like, I'm sure you'll be welcome back. But yeah, it's, he's just being dealt a really tough hand because even like to your point with the Orioles, it's an interim manager. It sucks, but those guys on the Orioles at least know for the most part at the core that they're all going to be back and be on the Orioles next year. Mm-hmm. So, decent environment, play for each other, keep each other somewhat motivated. at Virginia Tech, that's just not going to be the case. From like, you think Aiden Green's back next year? I wouldn't be surprised if he's not. I'd be very surprised if he was, actually, for being honest. So it's going to be a really bad hand. So I'm positive when it comes to Phil Montgomery. I think it'll be interesting to see the competence there. I think he's best equipped for the situation of anyone that they could have picked. But my expectations are still near the floor because, like I said before, we have the longest odds to win the ACC before a single ACC game has been played by us. And that for a reason. Before the ODU game, they moved our win total to 4.5.
And that was before the ODU game.
Yeah. But that the second half of the Vanderbilt game told a lot of people all that they needed to know about Virginia Tech. And I think it might have told Virginia Tech what they need to know about themselves. Whatever level of, they played 3 competitive halves of football against South Carolina, who knows how good they are. What Vanderbilt did to them last week.
Yeah, really.
But yeah, there had to have been some sense of belief there, and whatever was there evaporated, and it became very clear. But I unfortunately have a realistically hard time believing that just tossing Brent Pry and throwing Phil Montgomery in there and essentially announcing that we're punting the season is going to do anything to make that a ton better. I hope it does, but you have a chance to rewrite the story. It's just going to be a very difficult story to try to create. I mean, what would be your, if we're being honest with each other right here, Ricky, what's your barometer for success? What would it take for you to have Phil Montgomery leave town and be like, good job?
If he can find a way to prevent the Hokies from getting run off the field more than once, then I think that will have shown that he kept these guys fighting all season. I mean, they're probably going to get beat by, I don't know, 2 or 3 scores minimum to Miami, possibly Florida State. Who knows how good Louisville is right now, but they're going to lose at least 1 or 2 games by a relatively ugly margin. If they can play tough in some of these other games, right? Even if they lose, I'm looking at NC State. I'm looking at Louisville potentially. If they can find a way to punch above their weight class a little bit and keep these games competitive in the fourth quarter, that will have shown me that he kept this team together and was able to get them to the point where they were not quitting. And I think that's the biggest thing I want for me is I saw enough quit in the ODU game. I saw enough quit in the Vanderbilt game. That's the worst thing to see from a football program, and that will kill a fan's interest faster than anything, right? If you're Andrew watching the Mets just take the ugliest at bats every inning, right? Guys are just flailing at the plate. They're taking easy strike ones on the first pitch.
Are you describing the last few weeks on purpose?
But if you see a team just kind of pack it up and go home, what incentive do you have as a fan to continue watching, right? But if we go out there and Virginia Tech is keeping these games close and they pull a few out, right? They're able to win. At this point, we've got 10 games left, or excuse me, 9 games left. If they're able to win 3 or 4 of the 9, it'll look ugly as far as the end of season record, but I think it will have shown that Philip Montgomery was able to keep them playing hard and tough. And I think that's all we can really ask for in this position. I do think there's an interesting dynamic, though, with this roster is that there are a lot of seniors, most of which are transfers. But those guys don't have anything left after this season. So
unless they pack it up after the Wford game or before, haven't played 4 games yet, can transfer with
yeah,
eligibility for next year.
yeah, and
Guys might do that.
that's certainly a possibility. Although a lot of those guys have already used their red shirt, and for those guys that don't have any eligibility after the season, you really don't have an incentive to quit. So you might as well play your ass off. And even for some of these younger guys that may have a shot to start next season or start for part of this season, they have an incentive to continue to go out there and work their ass off to try and get into the 2 deep, try and get on the field, put some good snaps on tape, and that way you can decide come November, December, do you want to stick around for the next regime or do you want to try and move on elsewhere? So I do worry about the mindset of the team and whether or not they can play together, but I do think that there are some incentives for these guys to actually go out there and try and win football games. And they may be kind of selfish incentives. The reasons may not be the right ones, but if it results in them going out there and putting 100% effort in, at this point, I could really care less. I just don't want to see these guys quit and roll over.
I mean, I agree with you 100% there, Rick. I mean, the reality is the team won't be totally devoid of talent.
Yeah.
And the schedule looks far more daunting than we thought it did. Let's be honest
Yes.
there. I
Yeah,
mean,
it does.
But if this team can just go, and the bar is so low, but if this team can just go out and not like really embarrass the Virginia Tech logo on their helmets and names on their shirts any further,
Yeah.
I'll call that a win, right? Like I have not enjoyed. Virginia Tech has been very mediocre for the majority of the time that I've really followed this team. The entire time, at least for me as an adult.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's like it's never been this low before. We've never been like a true national laughingstock. Maybe like, the Liberty game thing COVID year, but that wasn't getting brought up on soccer podcasts. Like, go out
The
there
only
and
other time I can remember Virginia Tech being a meme is the Wake Forest game. 0-0 at the end of regulation.
yeah, but
Lose
the
6-3.
difference is that's objectively funny.
Like that was pretty hilarious.
It's objectively funny. It'd be even funnier if we won that game. I remember that was my freshman year of college. I came back and it was like right before either fall break or right before Thanksgiving. And I was like excited, and I went over to like a friend's house. We were watching that game with his dad, and he was like, "Hell is wrong with your football team?" I'm like, I don't know, man. It's a game that will live in infamy
There's a lot
forever.
wrong.
And the best part is that we stole their playbook. Shout out Shane.
Yeah,
we have a long 9 weeks to debate whether Shane Beamer's a good idea for those that even want him. And I assume he wouldn't even come, but it's already getting debated. We'll see how many topics we can run through between Hokie Twitter and all these podcasts. And, people are already up in arms.
I got a text from my dad earlier today. He's like, "Who's the leading candidate for the Tech job?" And I was like, one, I'm still doing my own research on some of these guys because I'm not familiar with some of the names. But also, like the people in charge that are going to make that call, I don't even think know a lot of these guys yet. So there are going to be a lot of names thrown around. D'Angelo Hall was thrown around today, which I find pretty hilarious. Just don't jump to everything you see on X and on Facebook, folks. There are going to be a lot of names that get thrown around for this job that are not in any way interested, or is Virginia Tech interested in them?
Yeah, I mean, let's be clear here. That is D'Angelo Hall's agent or himself calling that Washington Post reporter who doesn't really cover Virginia Tech, saying, "Hey, could you put something out about me being interested in the Virginia Tech job so it could stir up some?" I mean, come on. I mean, and to be fair, I don't think Yeah, Will Secor says D'Angelo Hall, the former Falcon and Washington football team
Yes,
quarterback.
Will,
Yes.
that D'Angelo Hall.
Yes.
Also, Will, he did not play for the Washington football team. You better acknowledge that.
Played for the Redskins.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, obviously Michael is being thrown around as a possibility. There are going to be plenty of other names that get thrown out there. So let's wait and see how this funding thing works, because I do think that's going to really determine what this candidate pool looks like, and it'll help us figure out who are the kinds of candidates that would actually be interested in taking this job. Because if the money's flowing, right, that's going to change a lot of minds about what the Virginia Tech job is. Because right now it's seen as a rabid fan base, great fan support, questionable support for the football program in a dying conference. But if the Board of Visitors comes through, funnels a bunch of cash that folks like myself and Andrew paid through our university tuition, if they start funneling all of that money to the football program and to the athletic department, then all of a sudden this job looks much more attractive. So we'll have to wait and see what the results of that initiative look like. But
Yeah,
I think
and to be fair though, like dying conference thing, if the athletic department is restructured and now the money is there, then you have great fan support. And if you're like a mercenary, like, okay, if I'm Pat Fitzgerald, right, and I'm going to use him because that's who I want. At least early on in this process, name came up and I'm like, yes, him. If I'm Pat Fitzgerald, though, I'm trying to break back into coaching. What are my options, right? Would I rather go to, I mean, we'll use it as an obvious example, UCLA, where it's going to take a massive overhaul to fix that thing. And then you got to compete in the Big Ten. Whereas the ACC is certainly like a lot more fluid of a situation where you can see, all right, if I'm at Virginia Tech and they're changing things up and they're taking it seriously and they're financially supporting the operation at all levels, there's been success there before. It's the ACC. You know, you probably think that your quickest route to being the coach of Michigan is more likely by being the coach of Virginia Tech and killing it than being the coach of Arkansas.
just got some very small breaking news. However, KJ Gillespie, who is a class of 2026 recruit, just decommitted. So
not surprising.
Expect to see a little bit more of that. And folks, this is why I say do not read too much into individual recruits until they sign on the damn paper.
Especially when you know your coach is on the hot seat.
Yes, exactly. Not much else I wanted to say about this game. We talked about this before we started recording, Andrew. Folks, if you're listening, we're not going to insult your intelligence and act like we have a good grasp of the Wford Terriers. Okay, this team is an 0-3 FCS team. Their quarterback's completing less than like 44% of his passes. They're a bit of a mess, right? Now, granted, so is Virginia Tech, so that's important to consider. But this is not a good FCS team. It's not really worth getting into the individual matchups. I think this game is really, hopefully, will be a bit of a glorified scrimmage for Virginia Tech, and that Philip Montgomery is able to figure out what changes am I going to make schematically, what changes am I going to make on game days to try and get this thing turned around, at least in the interim. And that could mean some different rotations. It could mean some different points of emphasis. Obviously, you're going to probably see different adjustments. Hopefully, we'll see some good game clock management. That would be nice. So I really do think this is a chance for Montgomery to kind of get his feet wet again in this situation, and hopefully Virginia Tech is able to win this one comfortably. I don't know what the turnout will look like for this game. I don't know if they're going to have 50,000 or 60,000. Jared Moore on X says 2 quarterback system, which I guess Wofford's running 2 QBs, which is kind of possible considering that they both have more than 26 or 25 pass attempts. So Wofford's a bit all over the place, Andrew.
Yeah, 2 quarterback system, and neither quarterback completing 50% of their passes. Neither even completing 45% of their passes there. Yeah, from what I understand on Wford, their offense is anemic. Their defense has been able to keep them in games to an extent.
Yeah, they have yet to allow more than 22 points.
Yeah, and then their defensive end, Brandon Mina, had a good season so far. He's the highest ranked defensive player in FCS on Pro Football Focus so far this season. I stole that one from Doug Bowman, so credit to him. BT Scoop 247 Sports, folks. Let me keep my job.
Will Sikora says Florida State last year beat an FCS team 41-10. As long as it's not a Dakota or Big Sky team, FCS games aren't too bad for P4 teams. Will, my friend, you have much to learn about the Virginia Tech experience and how
anything could happen.
FCS games in recent seasons have been glorified stomach aches for Virginia Tech fans. So
doesn't matter how bad the FCS team is, too.
Nope, hasn't mattered a single bit. We've seen it against Delaware, which is a respectable program, which is now FBS. Go Blue Hens.
Furman.
And we've seen it against Rhode Island. We've seen it against Furman. We saw it many years ago against Western Carolina. We've seen it, quite honestly, against just about every FCS team Virginia Tech has faced over the last decade plus.
I always forget that in that 2019 season, we played 2 FCS teams, Rhode Island and Furman, because Whit canceled on ECU, canceled the series because of the hurricane gate. That's such a piece of history. Ricky, I got to say, I need to do this one day, maybe in old age or something like that. The oral history that this podcast would provide you on how we felt week to week through all these ups and downs is probably hilarious to listen to in retrospect.
Historians will be listening to the Hokie Hangover 40 years from now to write the Virginia Tech Wikipedia page when they talk about the football program.
If any of you listeners who maybe on the newer side are like really sick in the head and just bored, if you want to feed on some rage, go listen to the post Furman or the post Duke 45-10 loss in 2019.
God, dear God.
That was like our 6th episode, but it's all good.
What a disaster.
Goodness gracious. But yeah, Ricky, so, we're going to get to picks in a second. Could you find a spread on this game?
No.
I couldn't. I looked all afternoon.
Yeah, and I would expect you to be able to find it a little easier than I did because you are, like Mike, a degenerate.
Hey, I'm bad, but don't compare me to Mike McDaniel, okay?
So the way I see it, we'll just count the Wford game as a free win for all parties involved. I still need to get Mike's picks anyway. I do have Izzy's picks, so I'll read those off as we get to them. But let's go ahead and run through this slate of games. I remarked to you before we started recording that there are some absolutely disgusting spreads in this set. So we'll get to those in a second. First off, we're talking noon at ESPN. Clemson's 1-2. They're hosting Syracuse. Clemson's still a 16.5-point favorite at home. Syracuse is gonna take this with the points, I think. Clemson's got some severe issues. I don't really know what's going on over there. That offense is pretty bad. I'll go ahead and run with the orange to be able to cover that.
Clemson hasn't been able to beat anyone. I mean, the most points they've put up all season is 27. That was against Troy. They wouldn't have covered 16.5 in that game. That was at home. I'll believe it when I see it. Not to get all in on the Clemson negative train, but I'll take Syracuse as well.
Yeah, I thought we were going to get War Machine Clemson last week. That certainly didn't happen. Also at noon on ESPN2, noted ACC historic team SMU traveling to Texas Christian University. Horned Frogs are 6.5-point favorites on the road. TCU's pretty good, it seems like. They've got quarterback figured out. Seems like that they have a shot to win the Big 12, which is still wide open. I'll go ahead and take TCU to cover the spread.
Yeah, I mean, jury's still out on TCU. SMU looks like they've taken a step back a little bit. SMU's probably got the more expensive roster. Not that that necessarily means everything. Give me the Horned Frogs because you misspoke there, Ricky. The Horned Frogs are at home.
Sorry, I thought I said that they were going to Texas Christian. Thought I said that. Also at noon on the ACC Network, Bowling Green, Andrew. The Falcons going to Louisville. Again, I'm not really sure how good Louisville is. Louisville is a 25.5-point favorite at home. This is one of those ugly spreads. I thought, this is way too many points. Give me Bowling Green. I don't think Louisville's going to win by that much.
Wait for it. Oh, I forgot about this. I forgot the Scott Loeffler era is over at Bowling Green.
Mm-hmm.
He's the quarterback's coach of the hated Philadelphia Eagles now. Give me Louisville. They'll roll them. With that lefty, come on.
I don't know, man. That's a lot of points. Kent State, Florida State.
Yeah, give me Florida State. No, I don't care how many points it is.
Dude, it's 44.5.
Oh, they got it.
I know.
Kent State's bad, dude.
I know they are, but oh man,
Kent State barely beat Merrimack. Texas Tech put up 62 on them. I think that Florida State will be fine. It's different levels of football.
I'm struggling.
Yeah,
honestly.
Will Sikora says I'd take FSU at 64.5. Amen, brother.
Screw you guys, Kent State.
All right, fair enough.
Why not? Who cares anyway? It's all fake. NC State. We'll go ahead and do this game first. North Carolina going to Central Florida, or as Bill Belichick likes to call them, Central. Central is a 6.5-point favorite at home here in Orlando. Give me the Knights.
It's the matchup I've been dreaming of for years, man. Scott Frost versus Bill Belichick. This is on national television, too. It's on Fox. Oh, my gosh. Perfect. Give me Scott Frost in this one.
Yeah. I have a feeling this whole Belichick thing's not going to end particularly well. Now we'll get to NC State going to Durham. That's like a 5-minute trip. Blue Devils are 3.5-point favorites at home. NC State, give me the Wolfpack. I think they might win this one outright.
I'll take Manny Diaz. He has the better quarterback. Summerall's a good coach. Bielema's a good coach. I don't hold those losses against them too much. I'll stop buying them after they lose to NC State, but give me Duke here. Not that it's much of a home field advantage.
Andrew cannot pick against the Dukies.
I will eventually, but I hold out for a long time, and that's been a good. I've been holding out for like 3 years, and it's been going great. So I'm not gonna give up just yet.
This game has significantly less juice than the game last week did on the CW. Temple going to Atlanta at Bobby Dodd. Georgia Tech's 23.5-point favorites. Georgia Tech is rolling right now. I do worry about this team long term just because I think Haynes King is just waiting to get knocked out for good. 23.5 is a lot of points, but I'm going to go with the Jackets. I think they can cover it.
Yeah, this game is going to mean a lot to Georgia Tech fans. They want to punish Temple for sending Jeff Collins their way all those years ago. This is going to be merciless. The fans are going to be in it. Give me the Ramblin' Wreck from Georgia Tech.
Yeah, it's hard to bet against them right now, even though that is a lot of points. Huge game here for Florida. Things are not going particularly well. That offense is struggling mightily. However, on the other sideline, Miami, ranked 4th in the country. Miami is only a 7.5-point favorite. This is prime time on ABC. Give me the Canes. I don't think that this is going to be particularly close. Vegas may know something. However, I'm going with Miami.
I hate Miami. Seeing them
Me
ranked
too.
number 4 in the country is painful, but they've been rolling. Screw it. I'll go against him. Billy Napier still got a little bit left in the tank. Hearing all this about Lane Kiffin's coming to take his job. Give me the upset. Gators on the road. Again,
Wait, are you picking outright, or are you just thinking that they're going
to
keep it?
To cover 7.5. I think they can keep
I was
it
going to
close.
say
I think Miami probably wins the game.
Yeah,
I think Florida's going to be tough to run away from. I don't know. I could be wrong. If they win this one, Miami, I'll be like, okay, this is like a powerhouse. But again, it just goes to show how you can, if Miami actually is good, it shows you how, with a little bit of money and some good leadership, you can truly lift yourself out of the gutter.
Amen. Speaking of the gutter, Stanford, cross-country trip for the Cardinal. They're going to go play in front of 530 fans at Scott Stadium. Virginia is a 15.5-point favorite here. The Who's look pretty decent. Stanford does not. Who would have thought that Tony Elliott would outlast Brent Pry? Give me the Cavs.
Yeah, I hate it so much, but I think UVA might be okay. And
yeah,
that last week of November, especially given like how checked out the team might be after 9 weeks of the interim coach. That scares the crap out of me, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Until then, I'm not going to doubt them until they give me reason to do so. Give me the Wahoos.
Yeah, that game's going to suck. Interesting situation here for the Golden Bears. Cal looks pretty decent so far with the freshman quarterback. Not going to try and say his name. Mike made an attempt last week, and I'm pretty sure he got canceled for it. San Diego State's on the other sideline, though, and they stink. Give me the Golden Bears here, despite a 12.5-point spread on the road.
Yeah, honestly, and again, I will plug my other podcast because I recorded it earlier today, and they made some good points. But either Matei or Doug said, what about Justin Wilcox? Is that an okay run at Cal? Could bring some players with them, including a quarterback. I don't know, but I like it. I like the Golden Bears. Ron Rivera really making his mark at his alma mater as whatever his job technically is. Either way, give me Cal.
I do think that that's going to be the structure moving forward, and I wouldn't be all that disinterested in Virginia Tech pursuing something similar. Wford, Virginia Tech. There is no spread for this game, so it's going to be 3 points for all 4 of us.
No, 3 points, dude. Come on,
no, 3 points, not 3.
Oh no. Let's make it harder than that. Let's call it 24.5.
24?
What you want? 20?
I was going to say like 17.5.
All right, then you can take the under. You can take Wford.
Oh. All right, so Andrew's telling me to set the spread here at Hokies minus what?
20.
Hokies minus 20. I mean, that is a pretty good number because I'm on the fence.
Izzy Post, if you're watching live, text us your answer.
Yeah, because we didn't have a spread for this game, so I'll have to double check with her and Mike. But man, give me Wford. I don't think Tech's gonna blow them out.
Ye of little faith, Rick. Ye of little faith.
Look, I was the only one that picked Virginia Tech to win last week.
Idiot.
Against yeah. So don't tell me ye of little faith. Okay. I had faith last week. I got burned. I don't want to get burned again. Tech usually does better when I'm super pessimistic anyway. I'll take the Terriers to keep it within 3 scores, I guess. But hopefully it's like a backdoor cover for Wford, right? Where Tech is up 3 scores and they break one late or something like that, or they just kind of march down the field in garbage time. But something tells me this is just not going to be like a 40-10 game or something.
You know, Ricky, Philip Montgomery, this isn't his first rodeo. And though I've basically been openly saying I don't have faith in Virginia Tech to win any of the following games after this. This flies in the face of everything I've said so far tonight. But
just ignore the last 50 minutes.
I mean, Wford's a bad FCS team. You win by 3 touchdowns. 3 touchdowns against an FCS team. They should be able to pull it off. Like the team isn't like ridden with horrible players. Like Stewart could go have a field day out there. Donovan Green, we got Donovan Green. Kyron Drones, he was on like a Heisman watch list last year. Come on, like this is Wford. Should be able to win by 3 scores at home.
Was it Kyron on the
building
Johnny
this
Unitas watch list this year?
Yeah, right? Was he? Well,
I
he's got
so,
9 games. He's got 9 games to insert himself back into the conversation. But it all starts against Wford, and I think they'll be able to put up some points. I think that their defense, Wofford's offense, suggests that it's anemic. Like, hopefully Virginia Tech. Yeah, that's true. That is true. And to be fair, Virginia Tech's defense just allowed 64 whatever consecutive points. But there's going to be a lot of negativity, which granted in this segment of the program might not matter because if things do get worse, so too will we become bigger underdogs in the game. It will always be entertaining, but against the spread at least. But I'm going to take Virginia Tech to cover the spread for the first time this season, albeit the spread that I made up.
We'll have to see if there ends up being a spread for this game. I'm sure there are some sickos out there that are looking for a Wford line, but we'll have to wait. If you made it this far, we appreciate it. Thank you for listening. Mike should be back next week. We'll get you a Wford recap either Sunday night, Monday. We'll figure that out depending on timing. I know I'm going out of town this weekend, so I will not be watching the game live, most likely. Andrew, you're also going out of town, right?
Yes, I'll be in Wisconsin all weekend. So Sunday night will not be good for me, but we can have that discussion later. Maybe we can.
Speaking of Wisconsin,
what's up?
Duke's Mayo kickoff.
Oh, yeah.
Virginia Tech, Wisconsin.
Yeah, actually, that's like a whole other conversation that you could have. Virginia Tech giving up the home game for the neutral site game. It's all about TV money. If you get a standalone Labor Day weekend game, you get more TV money. So it's
all about trying to stay up in those rankings.
They're not taking home game revenue away for no reason. They're not let's just sacrifice a home game and send it to Charlotte, even though we have to go on the road there. Wake up. It's about money.
Yep. I'll leave everyone with one last thing from Will Secor. Georgia Tech wants revenge because They lost to Temple 24-2 in Jeff Collins' first season. If
Georgia Tech, I'll be with you this weekend. I hope it for you. Again, I mentioned this before with Miami, Georgia Tech, an even better example. It can get better. You can get a little bit better. You can become competitive again. It's possible. Hang in there, folks.
Possible. Although if Virginia Tech ever scores 2 points in a loss, I will need to check myself into a rehab facility.
I'll visit you there, Rick. Because it could happen.
Again, Counts Family Farm.
Well, actually, Ricky, one last thing I got for you, and I'll ask Mike on the next episode because it won't. Is this the year the Virginia Tech shutout streak comes to an end? We've lost everything we have. We had the UVA streak gone.
I'm going to take one good look at this schedule one more time. No, I don't think so.
I'll keep the faith with you, but there's more opportunity than there's been in the past.
Counts Family Pharmacy, again, appreciate their support of the show. They've been here with us essentially from the beginning. And then Home Field Apparel, again, Beamer Ball gets you 50% off your first order online. So make sure you utilize that promo code and save you a little bit of cabbage so you can find a line for Virginia Tech Wford on Saturday and bet. We'll be back in a few days after this game. Appreciate everybody listening. Until then, go Hokies.